The state of Maine is known by its visitors for common themes like lobster, popular lighthouses, parks, and a long, rugged coastline. But if you go just a little further inland, you will find another Maine, one that is far less visited, rural, and sparsely populated, heavily forested, and often quite hilly. It is within these forests and down the old forgotten dirt roads running through them, now used seasonally by all-terrain vehicles or bikers, that you may find the remnants of logging camps, farmhouses, or entire villages lost to time. Today we explore an area of valley and stream, now overgrown, which once ran between two rocky hilltops in Maine. The story of 3 abandoned houses in the lost village of Owl's Head. The origin of the village begins simultaneously with the early start of the 2 modern towns that now sandwich the empty tract of land between them. The settlement to its south was formed in 1777 when the General Court of Massachusetts granted Alexander Shepherd new lands in Maine, which was then a province of their state. The lands had been known as Bog Brook since the 1760s and were granted for his work surveying Maine's coasts. The area would then become settled as Shepherd's Field Plantation and was incorporated in 1792. The other town to the north was named for its founder Abijah Buck. Buck was known as Squire Buck and was considered a man of integrity. His brother Nathaniel was a skilled hunter and woodsman. In 1776, the 2 men, along with an English army deserter, Thomas Allen, who had defected after being involved in the Boston Massacre, and a man named John Brown, went on a hunting expedition. The group then met a man named Benjamin Spaulding at his camp, where he told them tales of the area's hunting bounty, including mountain lions, beaver, and fish. The next year they began to settle, and in 1785 officially bought the land from Massachusetts at 24 cents an acre, naming it Bucktown Plantation. It grew in population and in 1793 became incorporated. During this time at Shepherd Field's northern edge, a country road intersection had formed called Times Square. This was originally a crossroad and consisted of a road going north to the neighboring settlement of Bucktown. The other east-west road led west between Owl's Head Mountain and Streaked Mountain. Eventually this road crossed a stream, and it was here that in 1797 a settler named William Churchill built a 20-foot-long, rare example of a colonial-era dry-laid stone bridge. Only 2 others like this in the state now survive, though both not as old. William built this bridge both to pay his taxes and to allow access to his lands. The area he settled would become the earliest inhabited area inside of Bucktown Plantation, in the north part of Shepherd's Field, and became known as the village of Owl's Head. This tract of land between the mountains slowly grew with returning Revolutionary War soldiers' families and spread out along a few new carriage roads between the mountains. It would eventually comprise some 20 houses. Early settlers there were attracted by its good soil with few rocks that was considered excellent for the farming of grain. The hills were used for the fine apple orchards and grazing, their spring water, and a deposit of high-quality iron ore, as well as granite and gems like beryl and black tourmaline. One settler there named Dudley had a grist mill and gunsmithing shop, and another was the local doctor. Nearby at Buckfield Plantation, people were involved in activities like the production of lumber for shingle making, boards, powder kegs, and handles, the milling of flour, and the making of leather for boots and harnesses. To the south in Shepherd's Field Plantation, farming was a common occupation, mainly creating products like hay and apples, and the mills on its river included a sawmill, shingle mill, blacksmith shop, and shoe shop. Eventually, with the movements of population during the Civil War, the town slowly began to shrink, and the busy Times Square intersection, which had grown to have a schoolhouse, became bypassed by new roads and eventually paved roads for cars. In 1994, only 2 houses remained in the area, as most of Owl's Head's roads became grassy paths and the region mostly used for recreation, while forgotten and sandwiched between 2 modern towns and 2 remote and overgrown mountains. Our journey today starts at the first structure we discovered, lying at the edge of the now vanished village of Owl's Head at the country road intersection where the road to the village once began. House 1. The outside is plain, the paint long gone or maybe never there. My first guess is this being a Federal-era farmhouse. It's shingled, shows some older features, and is very boxy. This would put it after the first days of the settlement, around 1810 or later, but before houses ceased to be built here.
No, I wouldn't go in there. Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a doorway that's angled, and I don't know if it is meant to be angled or if it's because of the roof collapsing. Either way, yeah, it's an rock shape.
A peek through the window shows furniture that seems like it's from the 1980s, as well as a rough floor, collapsed wall, and sagging roof.
Well, see that door right there? Oh, geez, don't. See how it's like...
Yeah. Tilted.
Is it supposed to be like that?
No.
Or is it...
The small side addition of the house seems to be a workshop. I notice a faint path into the woods, and a dark shape looms ahead. It's a large barn and seems very old as it's barely standing. The underbrush makes it hard to reach, but we keep trying to find a way.
Chipmunk.
One side has fallen off its stone support that seems to be a sizable field wall. How this barn hasn't exploded outwards from the pressure is beyond me. It's like the proverbial straw house the big bad wolf is about to blow over. Stepping back, it's clear that the wall runs some way and that this barn would have sit in fields bordered by this larger than normal wall system.
Nervous like the wind blowing is gonna blow it down. Huh. All these little stone walls are cool. There must be foundations or something.
Parts of the wall have fallen in.
Yeah, I'll probably do that. But this is kind of cool out here with all these rock walls. Pure luck. Actually, a piece fell while I was standing over here, so I wouldn't really get too close. I don't know what this is. Light?
The ground seems to be littered with old and rusted metal and some bottles as well.
Oh, this is so neat. All these little walls, yeah. Yeah, like, are they wall walls? Or are they, like, paddock walls? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it goes right up the hill, like, quite a ways. Yeah.
The walls reveal themselves to form a sort of channel where a country road may once have gone from the house to the barn and then up the hill. A walk further in shows a pile of bottles that might be dateable.
West oil. Oh, there's a bunch of old bottles of them. Well, these are like older ones, like bottle dump type stuff. Squib? What is squib? Yeah, there's a couple of squib bottles.
What is Squib? While the original company no longer exists, its successor today still does. Squib was formed in the 1850s by Edward Robinson Squibb, who leveraged his experience as a surgeon in the U.S. Navy to create a pharmaceutical operation. The business grew with the use of his medicine boxes in the Civil War and later acquisitions. In 1892, it became E.R. Squibb & Sons, creating a breakthrough poor man's mineral water laxative named Sal Hepatica that mimicked popular Bohemian spring water's taste. In the following decades, the company would grow to reach most households with products like this cod liver oil from around 1900 that matches our bottles, and this liquid petroleum from the 1930s. These cast-offs are likely from this time frame.
I think they might be a little bit old.
We head back to take a look at the front of the barn. It's clearly been used for storage and hay up until the 1980s. Since it barely hangs on by a thread and makes ominous sounds, we do not go all the way in and explore further into the crossroads. I was later able to pinpoint the house on an 1858 map here, just before our country road intersection that led into Owl's Head Village. I then used this map to discover it was already built by that date by one Tristram Bicknell, who was born in 1811. He married Polly Jordan in 1834, which is a likely relative date for this house. I would later discover she was from the family living in today's third abandoned house that we will explore later. Polly died the same year as her father in 1860. After Tristram's own death in 1890, the house is shown as owned by Hiram Merrill on this 1880s map. Hiram had married Anna, who was a member of Tristram's family, so it seems there was a possible inter-family sale of the house before Tristram's death. Hiram Merrill would die in 1907. House 2. Further down the road at the intersection to the main part of Owl's Head once was a school, now long gone. It's been replaced with abandoned campers, and further along, our second house.
Hey, it's still got a stove.
It looks completely trashed inside.
The little heater's covered. You know, you might be able to clean it out and make it work. Even the fridge. Probably not the fridge. But vintage Magic Chef.
We head around the back where there's lots of wire and discarded rusting items.
Yeah, that looks very safe. And I definitely want to go there. Mm-hmm. Oh hey, this is the toilet. Aqua magic. Oh, and the shower. It's a wet bathroom. Oh, she's fixable.
We leave it as we found it and head down an old track that shows as having been part of the old crossroads that heads east to an area labeled Whitman. The path becomes a dirt road, leading past a swamp and up a hill. At the top is a surprising house that doesn't seem that old.
Oh, nice.
With a weirdly ornate outhouse with stone steps.
Nice. Probably a nice little cave at one point.
The house is amazingly crooked, and there's discarded items everywhere.
Guess they were gonna build some logs. Yeah. Oh, there's a chipmunk looking at me. On the chimney that's on the ground. He's just not even using it. Yeah, don't see me.
A few features here, like the flat raised and rock-covered section to the house's side, seem like where an earlier structure could have sat.
There's like a little shed or something out back there. It's also correct.
Out-of-place bricks and slabs seem to add to this sense of reused rubble. From this side, the house is even more insanely angled.
Oh, maybe, yeah, maybe they had a little hot tub. Cabana type of thing. These blackberries. Part of the summer ago. I thought so. Other parts of summer.
Further back from the house is a hot tub.
Yeah. A windmill, I think? Maybe a little windmill?
At the edge is what seems to be an old metal windmill.
Yeah. Too bad. I bet it was a fun little camp for a while.
The doghouse still marks where Cody once slept. We say goodbye to the crooked house and its weird outhouse. The second house likely now stands to the side of the vanished house found on this map here, with the name S. Chesley likely standing for Samuel, who died in 1880 and had 2 daughters. Nearby we have a J. Whitman. I've since found that this probably would have been Joshua L. Hannon Whitman, who died in 1858 and whose family came to the area in 1790. He had a son, Ellis, who may appear on this 1880 map of the house as E. Whitman. It appears he bought the Chesley lands and house, dying in 1928. As I researched further, I was surprised to discover that Ellis's brother, Dr. Alan Whitman, had written notes that were used in an old history book that I'd been using as a source for the lost village of Owl's Head. House 3. This one I had heard may have been a doctor's home at one point. It lies far down the main road of what was once the center of Owl's Head Village, in an area with no inhabitants. The first thing that appears is an old swing set. This house also seems likely federal or early 1800s. The front is choked with weeds and vines. The floor inside is a bit weak, so we walk carefully. To the side, a broken stair leads to the cellar. The doors and door handles are notable in this room for being quite old. Past the living room, there seems to be a kitchen. Back in the living room, its side rooms are quite small, and an exposed heater under a hatch lies in the middle of the floor. Heading back to the hallway, we explore the further room. The old cupboard is a finer detail of this house.
That's the back of that cabinet on the other side.
On the floor lies an open letter, so we lay it out. There are also old photos of the house showing how the kitchen once looked. The letter talks about flying on a trip to Germany and is written to the house owners seemingly. This room is special as I was here in the past, and it was this very house that first made me delve into its history, find Owl's Head, and piece together the larger puzzle. We head into the hallway and try the stair to the loft level.
I don't like this. No, no. Oh, that shit. Yeah, no. It's because unfortunately it looks like the roof right up there is leaking right onto here. And so it's just pouring. It's not safe. Yeah, it's just can't get up there safely. And who knows if those are much better. That's unfortunate.
Luckily, despite finding the stair broken and no one wanting to try it, I'd been upstairs previously. A hatch opens to an attic room and then onto a small bedroom with an interesting, unique bed frame and dresser. Here at the last house, our research in the end showed in 1858 a private Benjamin Jordan of the Revolution owned this house and died in 1860 after marrying a woman named Anna Sawyer. He had a daughter, Anna, who married Hiram at House 1, and Polly, who married Tristram's family in House 1 as well. On this 1880 map, Moses Jordan, his son, is seen as the owner. He married Elizabeth Betsy Chesley of our second house's family and died in 1887, followed by Betsy in 1920. Their neighbors in the 1800s were the Maxims and the Swans. By sometime in the 1860s, these many houses would become just two that eventually in turn would become cut off from main roads and abandoned due to their remoteness, fading into the woods to become the now forgotten village of Owl's Head. A small lesson in how times change and how quickly we forget our past. I hope you've enjoyed these 3 houses, and please join us next time as we explore an abandoned water park.